Oh, thanks, Bob. Brilliant. It's recorded now, Bob. Brilliant. No, I really appreciate this. Seriously. Yeah. Welcome to my show, Phil Carew Show. The reason why I asked you is because I've been following over the years since I've been doing martial arts, and it's been an honor to actually ask you, because sometimes, when it's one of those things where you don't get anything like this every day. When you speak to someone, you think, where you're not just a fan, but you've become like a martial arts sort of fanatic. Myself, when I was 6 years old, I remember the first time I ever got introduced into martial arts, and my mum said to me, "Oh, look at this," because I remember when I was very, very young, I remember I got bullied, and I didn't know who would inspire me. And who knows, back in 70s, 80s, at the time, in the films, the first Chinese American, Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, yeah.
Yeah. And oh my goodness, I didn't know at the time, you'd have to pardon my ignorance at the time, I didn't know that he passed away, because obviously I was too young to understand. And my mum used to say, "Oh, look at this, you've got the Jackie Chans, the Bruce Lees, the Dan into Santos." And I remember there was one particular DVD or video back then. It was like videos. Now there's no DVDs and Blu-rays now. Trying to catch up with everything.
No, it's all online now.
Yeah, it's all online and all of that now.
Only the old boys use DVDs now. Yeah,
that's it. Or what was it back then? Betamax and things like that.
No, not Betamax. Well, Betamax came and went, really. It was always VHS. So I did one of the first VHS videos when they were first coming out, those tutorials. That was 1990, I think, or 92, maybe. It might be 92, but that was a German company, Abanico.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you, because obviously this is an honor again, again for this. What I wanted to ask you, how's it you come about? Because obviously for the up and coming viewers, when this is going to be put on, because this is pre-recorded, what I want to ask you is, what inspired you and what got you started into martial arts, or at all, when you first started? What made you get into martial arts? Because there's different reasons that some people go into it, don't they?
I think on some very subtle level, I can remember just not understanding fighting, really.
Right.
Even though I could fight fairly well once I was a teenager. I can remember being about age 5, and the kid over the road, who I was very close friends with, just turned around and punching me in the face. And I remember thinking, what's this about? And he had brothers, so he was used to like fighting. I had all sisters, so there was no fighting. I was the only boy in the house. Like, my dad was always working,
of course.
So I was like, my trousers, if I dropped them, they were cleaned and they were up again without anything, and food just came because I was the man of the house. Of
course.
To get punched in the face, I was thinking, well, what's this about? And I think even then that was like a trigger. And then later on in teenage years, I fought like an amateur boxer.
Okay.
And I was always an active kid anyway, but I fought an amateur boxer, and even though I was game, because I was always quite game, because I played lots of rugby. I was captain
of course
rugby team every year actually at school. So I thought, oh, he's beating me with skill, so I was intrigued. And you got to realize then was, what would that be, 66, 67, something like that, and we were having loads of fights. It was quite a violent time in lots of ways, lots of gang fights with various objects as well, hammers and things like that. So
goodness, wow, back then.
Oh yeah, it was slightly mad, really, and everything up to petrol bombs. It was not recommended behaviour, really. But we were like we were feral, you know, like it was post-war, so those kids grew up quite feral in
Of course.
nature, you know. Anyway, I fought him, and it was the time of Odd Job, and James Bond was coming out, and I read all the books, and I loved James Bond at the time, and then so Odd Job. So at school we'd be breaking all the set squares in technical drawing, you know, with chops, you know, throwing them out the window. We're terrible children, really. Now I'm just appalled at my behaviour, really. And so then I saw, and there was loads of people out there purporting to be experts, but they weren't. And then I saw Tiki Donovan on the TV, and I thought, oh wow, he looks good. He looked fantastic. And then I went along to a class because I had a classmate who was doing karate as well. So I went along with him to his class, and I got taught by Tatsuo Suzuki. And so that would be 66, late 66. And I was like, wow, what's that? Because he was so fast, unbelievable. And he could kick and punch, and it was incredible. So I just started with him, and I wouldn't say he was the best instructor because he was more power, but he wouldn't tell you how to get more power. Like how I teach now is very much the antithesis of that. You know?
Yes.
But it was great. I just loved it. I loved it, everything about it. I became obsessed. And for me, it was really great because it took me away from like gangs and fighting and various nonsense that people were doing. Some of it quite bad, you know. And not that I was ever that sort of person. I never started a fight ever, you know, ever really. But I've ended a few, you know, so I got into this, and it veered me away. I discovered like girls and karate, and they said, "Oh, do you want to come? We're going to go and sort these people out." And I went, "No, I'm either going out with a girl or I'm doing my green belt," you know.
Yeah.
So that was it. It changed my life, really changed my life totally, and we always came from quite an educated family, but it was quite feral back then, you know, like in lots of ways. It was just a different time. You know, if you try to explain to people now the attitudes, you know, like we're having.
Of course,
now,
yeah.
And that's from the 70s, from the 50s and the 60s. It was, wow, a different world totally. So I started, and I became obsessed, and getting a green belt veered me away from that. And then I had a fight with my best friend. I was probably being a bit too attentive to his girlfriend because I was a bit drunk. And he hit me over the head with a pint of Whitbread's pale ale, you know.
Goodness.
And smashed my head in here and almost cut my eye in half. And it went up through there, so I turned my head away. But he was a bigger bloke than I was. But that was great because it was like that, boom, and I was off on this track. And I've not changed that track in 50 years. So it's or over 50 years, 54 years or something like that.
Goodness. So how did you get involved in down in the Santo Academy and with Carly, Escrima?
I was always a JKD man before JKD was even heard of. I was always investigating. I was always into that idea of cross training and the truth. You know, the truth is really important to me. So not so much of this or that, and here's more techniques. How do I get that to work? You know, does it work? If it doesn't work, then you know, I'm not going to deal with it. You know, and so I was always exploring anyway. So we do like groundwork and stand up, and we mix those two. Even though we taught ourselves all of the groundwork, you know, just taught ourselves, you know, out of books and things like that. But it worked pretty well because I held down a load of big blokes up till quite recently with my sort of fundamental skills. And then I heard about this guy, Bruce Lee. I saw Bruce Lee in about 69 60 something, 68 maybe. I started going to movies in Chinatown with all Chinese people.
Yes.
Yeah, there wasn't anyone who wasn't Chinese. Maybe George Fitzgerald was there, or he tells me he was there, but I never saw him there. But but he says he was there as well. So there was the two of us, you know, and it would be like 12 o'clock at night, and they'd have kung fu films, and Bruce Lee came, and I went, wow, that's, you know, so. But he was talking, all the articles in black belt, he said, oh, I'm doing this small phasic bent knee stance. And I went, I've been doing that for years, you know, so lots of the things were the same, you know. But then I was still intrigued. So, and I heard about Dan and Santo, lots of the ways they were training in LA. And I thought, oh, yeah, we're doing the same sort of thing. Until I met Dan in 79, I invited him over. Because I thought, well, you know, why not I just ask him over? So it took a year. I emailed them. They didn't have email then. I wrote them a letter by hand.
Of course, yes. Which
you had to do then. There wasn't any email. You know, all those things that you take for granted now. You know, how do you get in touch? Did you FaceTime him? No, there wasn't. And then you had an address. You weren't sure of the address.
Yes.
Because it was, you know, and to find an address then of somewhere in a different land, in a different country.
Goodness.
You know, it was a nightmare, you know. So I wrote, and I didn't hear anything back. And I went, oh, so that's and a year later, someone phoned me up and said, we're coming to do this exhibition. Would you like to host this seminar? So I did that. I got 50 people, which were all my own people.
Goodness.
Predominantly my own people, 90% my own students.
Yes.
And we held the first Dan and Santo seminar, and he came with Jeff Imada. And Jeff Imada is the guy who taught, who was like the stunt guy for all of the Bourne films. So he taught all that pen stuff, the book stuff, all of the stuff in the Bourne Identity is all from Jeff. You know, so he coached all of that. So Jeff Imada's
brilliant,
great person. So that was it. And I was off then. I was just went, and then I changed my club. My club I had 40 people in a class every night. You know, I was packed, and I was good. I was very good. I was a really good teacher. So I attracted loads of people. You know, I was original. I was one of the pioneers, and it was my thing. I was very fortunate. I found my thing when I was 19. You know, I found my thing. I went off to teach. I didn't want to teach at all. No interest in teaching whatsoever. I just wanted to train. And at the club I was at, now called the London College of Karate, but back then it was just like the Tonbridge Club, you know?
Yeah.
And it used to be called Ravel was before that, yeah. And they said, look, Japanese teacher can't teach in Hatfield. Would you like to go? And I went, no, I don't want to. And they said, please, look, you're the top guy here, or you're one of the seniors here. Just for an evening, So I went, and I had a great time. And then he said, would you do it next week? And I went, no, I'm just not interested in teaching. I just want to train. And they went, please, it's just this one time. And I went back, and the people just loved it. And they said, oh, you're better than the Japanese. You explain things better, you do that, you know. And I was sort of hooked then. And then that was it. So I opened up my first full-time dojo when I was 20, which now seems remarkably arrogant and
goodness
young, you know. But I did in a church hall, you know. So I'd have the church hall 4 nights a week, you know, and all that. So that was it. I was off and moving.
Goodness, wow.
And so I got Dan to come in 79, but I opened that almost 10 years before, yeah.
Goodness. God. So what your sort of plans now? Because I've noticed I've been following and I've been doing my homework and research. I know you've got some up and coming some seminars coming up in September. Where will they be?
Well, we have a park thing in the park close to me, which is on my Guro Bob Breen thing. We put the link up there.
Okay.
And so we have like an open air thing because it's better for COVID and all of that, you know. Okay. Still some people come. Of
course,
down.
Yes.
And we did that all during the pandemic. We held them over there, so that was great. And I think in 3 years we got rained off once. I think we did train a bit in the rain.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But not heavy rain. We only got rained off the once. So that's become like part of the thing there, just training in the park. You know, it's great. So we got that on the 11th, I think, of September, and then we've got a London 4D Jeet Kune Do Kali camp on the 15th and 16th of October.
Ah.
Then I'm in Rome and other places, but you know, it's all on that Facebook page. Yeah. So
you know what? Sorry.
Go on, after you.
Yeah, go on. What I wanted to ask you before I forgot to ask you, in these seminars, would they be able to contact you not just via sort of Facebook? Which other platforms would they be able to contact you? Is there any other platforms that, before I forget?
I predominantly do Facebook because I'm of an age, and they say old people only use Facebook, don't they? I do a bit of Instagram, I do a bit of YouTube, but most of my contacting stuff is through Facebook because it's just easier. And then I have a WhatsApp. Once I'm linked to a person, then I'll give them my WhatsApp and all that. And we're so it's like we gradually get tighter, you know. Like
I see what you mean. Yes.
Yeah. And the same with people. You know, people on the internet, they looked at your videos and things like that. They're interested, and they say, "Well, why don't you come and meet everyone and be part of the group?" Because it's all about. There's loads of stuff you can't teach online. You get
that's true.
Approximation of it, but like I was training with a very senior instructor this morning, you know, and his arm was there. And it needed to be there. It was like that much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he had the bone there instead of the flat part. He was doing a disarm on a knife. And I said, no, if you do that, I'll come around and I'll cut your throat and I'm out the back, you know. And he was like, oh my God. And I said, yeah, it has to be accurate, doesn't it? So, and you can only get that by touch, you know. So so you online's great, and I teach. I have an online thing that I do, like an online course where I teach loads of stuff. And the big thing about what I do, it's called 4D.
4D, yes.
So it's seeing Jeet Kune Do and Kali, but not. Loads of people now are adding more stuff all the time.
Yeah.
More drills, more this, more that, and we were talking today. We're having a very high-level discussion about the universe and what the space telescopes have taught us.
Of course.
It's infinite, you know.
Yeah.
But it's infinite that way, but it's also infinite this way, you know.
Yeah.
Infinitely small and it's infinitely big, you know. And where some people are adding more, and often it's more stuff that you can't do, you know, or that you've got an approximation of. So my take, which I call 4D, because I say I need to be able to handle, or my students or people I train need to be able to be functioning in the 4 dimensions of stand-up fighting. Because all fights start standing up, you know. Only in competition do people go on the ground and scurry around on their bum to pull guard. Everything starts standing up. Yeah. So the 4 dimensions of stand up are striking, clinching, weapons, and group attack. And the thing is, you can't tell which is which because we might have having an altercation.
Yes.
You might have a knife, you might not have a knife, you might have friends, you know, we might be striking, you might grab me and you're holding on to me. So I'm in clinch now. So striking, clinching, weapons, group attack. And it can change all the time. You know? So I could disarm your weapon, now it's empty hands. Then your friend comes in, now it's multiple opponents. Yeah. So it's an evolve. So I wanted a template that would handle all that. And that's basically what I do. And what I do is I do almost like, I think what's happening now with Jeet Kune Do is we're in danger of going back to having the classical mess again, in that people have loads of stuff they know, but they don't own, you know. And what Bruce was on about was no, reduced to simplicity. But simplicity doesn't mean less. It just means more detailed, more ownership, more nuance, more. And the thing we did today, we're doing a knife defense thing, you know, but it applies to everything. What I said to Tony, I was training with, I said, wherever we interact, there's like four things at least I can do. You know, I can go forward, I can come back, I can go out the back this way, I can turn, I can change my position. And say we've got a relationship, like our hands have met, it only looks like it looks from where I am. But if I move where I am, it's a different thing. You know? So we said, look, just on that. So now we want to do a drills, but the drills are alive. They're not like a fixed drill where you're passive. You start out off being passive, but then you challenge everything. You know? So in the end, we're sparring, but in a very graduated.
Yeah, true.
And that way it's just really challenging for people, but they know what they know. And all the time I'm going, no, wrong, I stabbed you. No, wrong, I stabbed you. No, wrong, I stabbed you. So, you know, I punched you and I stabbed you. You know, so so you go, so there's truth all the time. So well, particularly for me, excuse me, burping away.
That's all right.
For me, truth is a big thing, you know, because you're putting people out there on the street and they have to know what they know. Yeah. And it's not, it's simple doesn't mean it's boring at all. It means it's, as I said, because it's not simple, because every time we interact, there's four things. So actually it's incredibly complex, but it can be taught in a really simple way, you know, that, and I go, no, I can hit you. So if I can hit you, then it's wrong. If I can't hit you, it's right. Yeah. And loads of aspects like that. So I think what I teach is quite dissimilar to most of the people out there doing Jeet Kune Do and Kali now. Yeah.
What would you say in terms of when you did martial arts and when you were doing karate, how did you feel it was, what the difference was in sort of the systems when you were like doing like katas and different things like that? Like, for example, with Jeet Kune Do, when you were doing that, because obviously you've got the mixing with that, with the kung fu in it, with the kung fu, the sticky hands, and then you've got karate, because there's what Bruce Lee and the Jeet Kune Do in there, where Dan and Santo, and then you mixed in with the sticks, you know, all the mixture of things. How did you feel with that, with the difference of all the different systems and there when you were trying them out?
Well, at first the karate was great. We were the best of the best at that time. It was the best technology that was out there. You know, it was like the Palm Pilot or the Apple Newton. You know, I mean, it was.
Yes.
And still, some of those guys would still kill you. You know, the guy, Terry O'Neill. I was talking to Mickey Dinsdale on here, messaging him today. Terrible fighters to fight, you know. I mean, like they knock holes in you, and they probably still would. So, not to disparage the karate, but karate is like one range sort of thing, yeah. very powerful, but great kicks, because we did less. We did less. So what's happens now, the JKD community just do more and more. They do less and less of more and more. And what we did in the 40 days, we did more and more of less and less. And actually, if you looked at the karate, we did this much training, 70% of it was rubbish.
Yeah.
You know? Like this sort of stuff. It was rubbish. And people say, oh, that's because you don't understand it. No, I did. I used to do 32 katas a day, every day for years. 32. All my like this and that. And, yeah, I did them all. And then I tried to apply them. Didn't work. Right. And they went, and then I think the argument that lots of those arch traditionalists would say, oh, that's because you didn't have a good teacher, or you didn't understand, or something like that. No, if it doesn't work, it's wrong, isn't it? If I'm in a tribe,
yes,
and we've been attacked by a tribe on the next island or something like that, or the Vikings are coming.
Yeah, true. You're right. Anyway, folks, thank you for watching the Phil Carew Show once again. Unfortunately, there's been a few technical things that happened in regards to the internet previously, but I would like to thank Bob Breen from 4D Combat and Bob Breen Academy. He's also part of the Dan Inosanto Academy as well. Yeah, that would be great as well to see if I can be able to speak to Mr. Guro Bob Breen and Guru Dan Inosanto in the near foreseeable future. Anyway, folks, I'm going to have to love you and leave you. This is just an informal chat. Bloopers. Yeah, folks, I'm making the best of it. Anyway, folks, what I'm going to do is I am going to put some information in regards to what Bob's doing, updating you on what he's doing with the JKD, as in the Jeet Kune Do, Escrima Kali, and also MMA and other sort of techniques of martial arts and maneuvers that you can use. It'll be great because I will be in the foreseeable future sharing some more information on what's happening, not just in the martial arts world, but also in the basketball world as well. It's part of my love and passion as well. And also in the personal development. So stay tuned. Ciao. Adios. And Daghan Salamat for those in the Philippines, Tagalog, and also Daghan Salamat for those who speak Bisaya and Cebuano. Take care for now. It's definitely going to be in the bloopers, isn't it? Wow, that was cool, and that was an honor speaking to Bob Breen. My goodness. Didn't expect that, folks. I only spoke to him yet. Well, I'll rephrase that. I messaged him yesterday and I managed to get one straight back, and I managed to speak to him. Unfortunately, I couldn't put it on Facebook Live because there was a few things that I needed to sort out, but I managed to get a Zoom. But we're going to have another meeting again soon. So stay tuned, folks. Bye for now.